What is up, creatives? This is Tom. Welcome back to another video. I hope you are all staying well. So I've been shooting with my new Canon 90D for about 2 weeks now. And I thought I would break down some of my thoughts, show you a bunch of footage. I also want to talk about picture profiles and the picture profile that I'm currently using on the 90D. I won't get into that until slightly later in the video. So if you are interested in sort of just that picture profile stuff, you can click to skip or go to this time code and that will take you to that section of the video where I'm talking about the custom picture profile that I'm using with the new Canon 90D. Well, I say new, it's not that new, but it's been a long time since I have used a Canon camera. I've never actually even owned a Canon camera. I've been shooting on Sony for so long now that I'm just absolutely thoroughly enjoying a new camera system like the Canon EOS line. So I want to talk to you today about a few things to do with this camera. It's certainly not a full review though. Do let me know if you would like sort of a full breakdown of my experiences. I kind of feel like I need to use this on a few more shoots and maybe some actual proper production shoots once we're allowed to go and do that. But certainly I do feel like I need to get more of a grasp on the camera before I give, you know, like kind of definitive opinions on it. But so far I am just absolutely loving shooting with the 90D for a kind of a variety of reasons, and I'll share those in this video. So before we get any further, I would like to talk about why I actually picked up the 90D in the first place. Now, I've kind of shared a lot of thoughts previously on this YouTube channel about why I was going to switch or thinking about switching. Primarily for me, one of the main reasons was glass compatibility. So I shoot on the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera. That is my absolute sort of main camera, and I use a speed booster on that so I can use EF glass, which means that having a Sony a7 III and the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera, not a great mix. However, moving to something like the 90D for my stills and my sort of slightly more casual video production just means that it sort of covers a lot more bases, and it means that I can use the glass on my Pocket 4K and on the 90D. Another thing was obviously stills. The Pocket 4K is not a stills camera, so that was sort of one of the driving forces of why I actually decided that I needed to pick up a sort of companion stills camera, if you will. And there's a few things that are sort of just started to happen after using the 90D for a bit that I just have sort of absolutely love, which I wasn't really expecting. First of all is the colors. Now, even on a shot like this, where I've just got, you know, I've got a light off to my right, I have my microphone set up, just my sort of standard YouTube setup here. Even with that, it's just like noticeably better in terms of color reproduction, skin tones. Like these skin tones are so good compared to what I've been used to on the Sony side. And that's not to say you can't get good colors on Sony cameras, but it's just much more work. It's much harder. I've had more times where S-Log ruins footage than when it actually comes out looking great. So it's basically just an absolute breeze to get great looking footage using the 90D. And there's a few other things that have just been a, you know, kind of a godsend as well since shooting with this camera. I've basically been shooting every single YouTube video that I have made recently using the 90D. It's why I don't have it in my hands right now. It's shooting me here because the autofocus is so good. It is seriously just like unbelievably good. If you have a face in shot, it's basically never gonna go in and out of focus. Let's go over. Like, it's just crazy, crazy good. And it just means that shooting these style of videos where I'm sort of, I guess, a meter and a half away from my camera, I'm using the Sigma 18 to 35mm f1.8, it means that I just don't need to think about it. On the Pocket 4K, it's pretty difficult to film myself in this situation. Like, you have to, you know, if I'm stopped down to like f1.8 or f2, getting everything in focus, getting my face absolute pinpoint is pretty hard. If I move in and out like this, my face is going to be in and out of focus on that camera. So having just this type of setup for these YouTube videos is just an absolute breeze. So I've taken the 90D out on a couple of days here. Obviously, we are not getting an absolute ton of time to go out and shoot right now because of the whole sort of lockdown situation. So it's very understandable. So I've just taken it out on a couple of evenings and also a daytime to get a slightly difference in footage. Now, I tend not to use a variable ND when I'm shooting for almost like footage examples, because I think it just alters things too much, so I'll tend to just mess around with my shutter speed. Generally, I'm kind of happy doing that. It means that you don't have to be too worried about always doubling your shutter speed to your frame rate. You're kind of getting a spread of different examples and lightings here, and the frame rates are important. So talking about the frame rates, the 90D initially launched with no 24, 25 frames a second. I'm in Europe, so you have to use 25 frames a second, not 24, and that's kind of weird. Like, that was a weird move at the start. Obviously 24 frames a second is probably the most popular frame rate used online, so it kind of was a weird move from the beginning. However, recent firmware update, or relatively recent firmware update after everyone just complained about it, they released the 24 frames a second, 25 frames a second frame rate update for this camera, and I think the 4K 25 frames a second footage looks amazing. Paired with some of the glass that I own for this system, the Sigma 18 to 35mm f1.8, and then I'm also using the Canon 24 to 70mm f2.8 lens. This lens here, this piece of glass here, this is the 24 to 70mm f2.8. This is the first generation edition of this glass, and that was the sort of the glass that I took out on the sunset shoot that you are seeing just sort of down to the local beach. But it really just produces some absolutely beautiful results. If you invest in some decent glass like the Sigma, or like, you know, this Canon L series lens, you're just going to be getting gorgeous video and photo on this system.
Alright, what's up guys? So hopefully you guys can hear me. I'm quite near the beach at the moment, as you can see. So I was basically on my sort of daily exercise. We're still at the moment in the UK able to sort of pop out and leave for one piece of daily exercise a day. So I've just sort of finished mine, a little bit hot and sweaty, but I thought I'd get the camera out, the 90D, and walk you through some of the picture profiles on the camera. Apologies if the camera's a little bit shaky, vlogging with quite a big setup here. I'm on the 90D and then a battery grip. But this is the standard picture profile, so you're going to get probably a little bit less dynamic range than you would normally on the sort of neutral picture profile that I've been shooting with. So hopefully you guys are getting a kind of a good example of that. This is the ungraded, just standard picture profile, and then I will also switch out to a graded, so you can have a little look at what that looks like. Just kind of walking around, getting maybe a spread of different lighting on the 90D. So here we are. This is the sort of ungraded neutral picture profile. So you can see that the highlights will all be quite a lot less exposed than they were before, as you can see from the sky in the background here. Also the sky over here, if we look over in this direction, everything's just getting a little bit more sort of washed and muted, but that's obviously totally intentional. So this is the ungraded, and now let's throw this over to a grade. Let's throw a grade on this footage so you can just see the difference. Now you can immediately see that that is just noticeably and significantly different. It's going to look much closer to the standard in terms of sort of vibrancy and saturation, but you're just getting much more detail in pretty much every color on the screen.
Alright, so now we've gone through some of the picture profiles that sort of come with the 90D out of the box. I want to talk about my slightly custom picture profile. Now, I'm certainly not doing anything extraordinary or revolutionary with this picture profile. Shooting neutral on the Canon EOS line has obviously been a technique used by tons of people forever to just kind of make the default video that you get out of the camera. This picture profile definitely just gives you a lot more scope in post to basically boost everything and improve everything in the shot. It means that you can recover your highlights slightly better than you would have been able to before, and you can boost up the shadows a little bit as well. You're obviously not getting a crazy bit depth on this camera. It's part of what makes it just a great camera for content creators. Like, the files aren't enormous. You're able to just sort of run and gun stuff, and it probably is going to look great. You're not probably going to want to film a short film with something like this. It's just not like, you're just not going to have the flexibility in the grading. However, a picture profile like this will just help you to get slightly more neutral footage and something you can push a little bit more than the standard picture profile that comes with the camera. So there we go. That's kind of my thoughts on the 90D, but I want to talk briefly about who I think this camera is for. And I think, to be honest, after shooting with it for, like I said, about 2 weeks now, I think this camera is kind of for everyone. Now, let me explain that briefly. I think this is an amazing camera for YouTubers and content creators, online content creators. However, you know, I shoot kind of professional work, like I shoot for clients on a very regular basis, and I would use this camera for client work. It's certainly not in the same league as the video that I would get from my Pocket 4K. However, for certain types of content, this is going to be just an amazing camera to use. The video is unbelievable. It gives you the flexibility of creating great stills with a camera like this, and the colors are just out of the box gorgeous. I really do recommend any sort of hobbyist or professional check out the 90D if you're looking for a companion camera to something really good, or just a standalone camera which does both things, photo and video, really well. There we go, guys. That's kind of my thoughts on the camera. If you have any questions, just drop something in the comment section down below. I will be very happy to answer them. I'm always down there answering questions. Let me know if you guys have shot with the Canon EOS line. I kind of feel like it's been forgotten about for the past few years. Obviously, Sony's got way more popular, but let me know if anyone's shooting on those cameras still, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.